Are the Bears going to trade Justin Fields as early as next week? A new report has dropped this morning. I'm Harrison Graham. You're welcome into Bears Now. I'm going to break it all down here on today's show. But again, help us out. Subscribe. We're so close to 88,000 subscribers. Still thinking about doing a live show today, even though we haven't gotten there yet. If we do get there, we will for sure do one. Hit that sub button. We're covering the latest news, rumors, trade buzz, more coverage. I'll be at the NFL Combine next week. It's going to be a blast. Don't miss out on any of our content. YouTube.com/BearsNow. Subscribe for free today. Okay, is a trade happening next week? Well, report coming in from Albert Breer is that Justin Fields could get traded early on during the NFL Combine. Here's what he had to say on Cap and Hood, ESPN 1000 this morning. He said, I think the bones of the trade will be set next week. And then this part of it is where it gets interesting. There's some urgency on the Bears' part to get something done. That part of it, to me, makes me think this might actually be over. Like, they may have actually come to a conclusion of like, okay, we're going to trade Justin. And then the debate's going to be, or the discussions within the building at this point are going to shift to, okay, which quarterback are we drafting? Now, do I know that for sure? Has that decision been finalized? I can't say for certain, but like, how many reports do we have to hear to make us believe that they're not going to trade Justin? Like, again, this would be the craziest smokescreen game of poker ever by a general manager. And I know it's smokescreen season leading up to the draft, but It just feels that way, man. Like it feels like it's over. It feels like Justin's going to be in another uniform next year. And as you look at some key dates coming up, you got the combine for the next week starting on Monday. The legal tampering period begins the Monday after the combine on March 11th. New league year when contracts can officially be signed is the 13th. And then the draft, April 25th through 27th. So it's coming, guys. Like, and again, I get people are on both sides of the debate, but if they do trade him, it needs to happen before March 11th. For sure before March 13th, the start of the league year, but we all know contracts get agreed to starting March 11th. A trade needs to happen in the next couple weeks, and quite frankly, like I kind of hope we get some kind of resolution on this next week. And you know who else hopes that? Justin Fields. He said it on the podcast. He's like, dude, I just want to know either way. If you're going to keep me, cool. If you're going to trade me, cool. Just let me know what the deal is so we can all move on and focus on other things here. And look, I like Justin a lot. I think he's a starting quarterback in this league. I still think he could have success with the Bears. I just think if you're reading the tea leaves, if you're looking at the opportunity that the Bears have ahead with this number 1 overall pick, resetting the QB clock, really good options in this draft at quarterback, new offensive coordinator. Do you want Justin to learn a third offense in 4 years? Like, it just makes the most logical sense to draft a quarterback. Again, unless you just don't like any of the options, but I don't think that's going to be the case. Now, you look at some teams that I think make sense for Fields. I'll continue to pound the table for these top two, Pittsburgh and Atlanta. I think Atlanta last year would have won the NFC South if Fields was their quarterback. I think Pittsburgh last year, who went 10-7 with the combination of Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, and Mason Rudolph, I think they would have been much more of a threat with Fields. So moving forward, I think that could be the case. I think if Atlanta does get him, that's clearly an upgrade from the situation they're in with Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke. And the reason those two teams stand out too is picking at 20 for Pittsburgh, especially 8 for Atlanta. It's going to be hard to get one of those top 3 prospects. New England, Washington, they probably only make sense if they don't love, the second, third QBs in this draft. Denver, Deshaun Payton-like Fields, they're going to move on from Russell Wilson, so they could be an interesting one. I'll verbally mention the Raiders, but I still don't think a Getsy Fields 2.0 is coming here. Is in terms of draft compensation, I think one thing we know for sure is Ryan Poles wants to get into that second round. Like, he wants round 2 draft capital, right? He's got the 2 top 10 picks, but he doesn't want to pick at 1 and 9 and then not pick again until 75. I just don't see that. So if you trade Justin, I think of course you'd want a first-round pick, but get into that second round at least, right? Like, have a trade package be centered around a second-round pick. Hopefully get a day 3 pick as well, maybe another day 2 pick depending on who the team is. But I got to think Ryan Poles is going to want to get into that second round because there's a lot of prospects at key positions in this draft that in that 25 to 60 range that are going to be coming off the board that the Bears would like to get their hands on. So if they do trade Fields, I think, that pretty much locks them into having a second-round pick at some point in time. Do you think it's over? Do you think Justin Fields is gone and that he's going to get traded? Type Y for yes, type in for no. I do think he'll get traded. Do I think it's like over? I guess not, but I am in the camp at this point that I do believe, based on the reporting, based on the tea leaves, that the Bears will ultimately end up trading him, and I wouldn't be shocked if it happened next week. Coming up, is the focus in Chicago shifting toward the draft prospects, the quarterbacks they could take at number 1 overall, or maybe in a slight trade down if they decide to not take Caleb Williams? We'll talk about that and hear something Brad Biggs said earlier today as well. But do want to tell you guys a little bit about our sponsor, PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS to get a deposit match up to $100. NBA All-Star break is over, so you got games going every single night. If you want to get some picks in with some Bulls games or want to cross over sports, you got spring training baseball. Let's go, baby. Here's why I love PrizePicks. First of all, it's daily fantasy, which is fun, but it's easy. It takes less than a minute to submit your entries. It's the largest DFS app in North America. What does that tell you? It's the easiest to use. It's the most fair. It's the most fun. You got daily specials. You got discounts sometimes. You get that deposit match again with code CLNS. And just because NFL season is over doesn't mean you can't play all the time. NBA, NHL, MLB, you got UFC, you got other sports, esports. Producer Jack, who's producing the show today, loves esports, so he's making money on a daily basis with PrizePicks. Go check it out, prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS. It's not you versus pros and sharks. It's just you versus the stat projections. You take more or less, and you can win up to 25 times your money with a 6-player entry. Link is in the comments and in the description. Get going with PrizePicks today. Okay, let's talk about draft now, exploring draft quarterbacks. Brad Biggs says trading Fields is a no-brainer, but a decision on a prospect can't be made yet, can't be finalized, and that's because they haven't met with these guys yet. Here's what Biggs said on 670 The Score moments ago. He said, you can't lock yourself into Caleb Williams before you've met him and have in-depth conversations with him. That would be ludicrous. We're sitting here, and it's not even March. They've got a lot of time. They've got to spend some real time with him and the other candidates. And I completely agree with what he's saying there in terms of, like, yes, Caleb Williams, I think, is the top QB in this draft, but you can't zero in on one guy and not, like, take a look at these other guys. Drake Maye, in most drafts, would be a number 1 overall pick. Jayden Daniels had a meteoric rise this year with how he played at LSU. I don't think Michael Penix, J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nixes of the world are real considerations at the top of this draft, but if they get wild and want to do some trade down scenario or take a QB at 9 instead, you got to look into those guys as well. And what do the Bears keep saying? Poles said it a lot back in January in that press conference with Matt Eberflus after they fired Luke Getsy. Shane Waldron echoed it yesterday. We have to get to know the person. That's what they keep saying. You can't draft a quarterback based purely on tape. If his tape is awesome and you meet him and he's a douche, you don't like him, he sucks, you don't think he can lead your team, especially in this city, you can't take that player. You just can't do it. So I think they're going to have an idea based on the tape who they like the most, but that could change at the NFL Combine. That could change at pro days. That could change in private workouts. So, if they trade Justin, which, again, I do think they will, I think they'll have an idea of where they're leaning. But what you can't do is what the Ryan Pace regime did. And Josh Lucas, the player personnel director, he's on record saying this. They zeroed in on Mitch Trubisky too early. They liked him from the start, and they overlooked things with him and with other prospects. They just like, Mitch is our guy. We're going to do what we can to get him. So they didn't take a deep dive into Patrick Mahomes. They didn't look and consider Deshaun Watson nearly enough in that process. So you can't get caught with tunnel vision. Now, you get to a point where it's like, okay, this is our guy. But to Biggs' point, it's not even March yet. You haven't even met these guys yet at the NFL Combine. So, for me, right now, Caleb is my top guy. I think he's the best quarterback in this draft. I think he's got the full skill set. The arm talent is incredible. The off-platform plays, the quick release. I like it all. But I haven't met Caleb. And it's a reason why I postponed my official Bears Now declaration until after the Combine because I found out I was going to get to go to the Combine, and I wanted to see this guy up close. Not even really the drills, just how does he carry himself at the podium. Like, I wanted to see all that stuff, and I wanted to see Drake Maye and Jayden Daniels, which luckily I'll get to do next week. But I will say this, and I will say this now because it's possible Justin Fields gets traded before the end of the Combine, which is when I would do that video of who I am leaning with. And I've told you guys for this, I'm heavy Caleb lean at this point. Like, today, that is where I would go. I would trade Justin Fields, and I would draft Caleb Williams. So if a Fields trade happens, I do want that on record. I don't want you guys being like, oh, easy way out. You didn't have to make a declaration. I just wanted to get the full picture first because what you don't want to do is declare something early and then things change, right? Because, of course, I can change my mind, but I know how the social media works. You said this. You can't change, which I think is ludicrous. There's new information all the time. But I do want that on record. If Fields gets traded before the end of the Combine, I was a heavy Caleb lean. That could change, though. I could like Drake Maye. I could circle back to Fields based on what happens at the Combine if they haven't traded him yet. But as of today, that's where I'm at. I just want that out there. So there's no, double standards, whatever you want to call it, coming from me because I've said it for weeks. You guys know this. People who watch the show every day, I am a Caleb lean, but I do want it on record that if a Fields trade happens before I can create that video after the Combine, which is what I want to do after I get more information, then that is where my headspace was at. All right, I want to know from you guys, who will be the Bears 2024 quarterback? Let me know in the comment section down below. And I just want to finish with this because the QB discussion is very toxic right now. Every time we go live, the live chat, not everyone, but there's always a little toxicity in there. There's name calling. I don't like that. I don't care what side you're on. Be passionate about it, but let's be considerate with other people's opinions. You don't have to name call. You don't have. I'm getting DMs now. You're a traitor on Justin. I love Justin. I put out a video earlier this week making the case to keep Justin. I still think there are avenues where that can work out. I just think going QB at 1 is the better decision right now. That's all. That's all it is. So just wanted to reiterate that. I've said that a few times, but we don't have to make this life and death stuff when it's important, but it's not, the end of the world. All right. Enough of that. I'm Harrison Graham. Subscribe. Trying to get to 88,000 subs. Might try to do a live show later today. If we do get to 88K, we'll for sure do one. If not, we'll be live on Monday. So subscribe, turn on notifications for more content. We'll see you soon.